What's up, everybody? Coach Putt here with Catalyst. Want to very quickly go over a hitting overview. This is a very quick sort of 30,000-foot view of some of the things that we like to look at in the swing, some of the more basic things that you can try to sort of identify and talk to some of your athletes about. So let's get into it here real quick. Understanding number one, different portions of the swing. Now, of course, you could break it into all sorts of different pieces. This is again, a very high level view to just have some sort of basic agreed upon language in terms of what portion of the swing we're talking about. So number one, stance. Number two, load process. Three, launch position. Four, our swing plane, which we commonly break down into connection, impact, and extension. We talk about connection pretty extensively. We feel a very important element. And then five, finish. So that's kind of our five overall ones. We'll go over each one of these in detail in terms of what we mean with each one of these particular portions. Stance, first and foremost. Yes, we would like to be in a good spot in our stance, that, a good athletic position that allows us to heighten the likelihood of being in more advantageous positions throughout the rest of the swing. But guys start in all sorts of different stances. And the truth of the matter is that this is something that's going to be unique to each athlete, and we want them to choose a stance that they're comfortable with, that allows them to have some success overall. You can see all these photos that I have up here. There's all sorts of guys in all sorts of different stances. You got Aquino and Galarraga standing open with their hips almost facing the pitcher, and then all sorts of different hand positions. Crush Davis is relaxing his hands way out in front of him. Goldschmidt and Vladdy have the hands up super high with the bat almost flat. And then everything in between there. So what we want you to understand is that our stance is going to be unique to each athlete. Now, when we talk about load process, really load process is our stride. It's the portion of the swing between the stance and what we define as launch position. We're going to talk about launch position in a moment, but spoiler alert, it's the instant our front toe touches the ground. So this third frame of McCutcheon and Andre Ethier right here would be our launch position, that one instant when the front toe touches the ground. The load process is just our timing mechanism, and that becomes our stride, right? The time between our stance and our launch position, the instant we hit front toe touch. The reason we want to touch on load process is because we want to stretch the rubber band, meaning we want to get separation. If you watch Bonds right here, his foot goes forward as his hands go up and back. Stan Musial, Stan the man, he tips his bat back as he does a toe tap back and then stretches it on out. But you see their hands aren't going forward before the front toe touches. Here's Nomar Garciaparra. Again, his is much more simple. Short little stride forward, but he stretches that rubber band. Watch Mickey Mantle walk away from his hands. Hands stay back as the foot goes forward. So really important with the load process. Guys have all sorts of different load processes. The same way that different guys have different stances, you'll see big old leg kicks, Javi Baez, Josh Donaldson, right? You'll see a toe tap back like Stan Musial right here. Sammy Sosa used to do that. Jose Abreu and Vlad Guerrero do that in more common day or current guys. And all sorts of guys that have real simple strides like Nomar and like Mickey right here. The point is that with that load process, whatever move is made, that again is going to be unique to the athlete also. I don't think you need to tell every athlete they have to do a big leg kick or a toe tap back or anything like that. But what is key is that they get separation, that their hands don't come forward before their front toe touches the ground. So this is something in youth hitters that we just see guys step and swing very often, meaning their hands chase their front foot forward. So a very good thing to sort of start with to try to help guys feel this separation, feel that load in that stretch. Here's a couple more. Again, some more current day guys with different load processes. Goldschmidt, real close to almost to no stride, a very short little stride. Vlad Guerrero starts with that bat back. He'll toe tap back. Mike Trout has a medium leg kick, kind of lifts that leg up. Nolan Arenado and Crush Davis have two different versions of back foot timing. So they'll sort of have a little step with their back foot, little step with the back foot. Crush Davis does a double toe tap forward. Arenado very often will do just a regular stride or sometimes a toe tap back. Donaldson, big old leg kick. Kevin Youkilis, some of the older folks my age will remember Uke and his very unique stance, but still hits that same launch position. He kind of has his hand up the knob of the bat there sometimes before he brings them together. Aquino standing open. So here all of them are, boom. And now in a little bit more slow-mo, see all these different moves that they make. However, that one instant when their front toe touches the ground, launch position, we're going to talk about here in a second, very similar. Same thing right here, a bunch of different load processes. Miguel Cabrera, he'll change his load process in and at bat. Sometimes you see right here, he goes with a no stride. All right. Again, we're just trying to highlight the idea that yes, you can have all sorts of different load processes, but we got to have separation. The thing that we like to emphasize that helps get separation and also can be really, really helpful in terms of creating good rhythm and creating good timing is the idea of starting earlier and slower with your load process. So Christian Yelich right here, this view from behind, you'll see he kind of has this sync with his hips before he then strides out. Well, if you watch Yelich right here and you see how early he starts his sync, we really believe that can be very informative for younger athletes in terms of the idea of starting earlier and slower, creating that rhythm, right? It's a dance with the pitcher. If I can start super early and be like a jungle cat stalking my prey, right? Sync and then separate, you'll see the ball better, keeps your head a little bit more still, your eyes transition a little smoother. And we see guys tend to have a much higher likelihood of being on time if they can start earlier and slower, move through that load process with some rhythm rather than starting that load process super late and everything being herky-jerky and rushed out there. So that's kind of what we're looking for with the load process. It's getting separation, and we would like to start earlier and slower. Here's Sadahara O. Again, you see how he starts that gather with his leg kick nice and early. He's almost into that back hip and sort of holding it ready to attack at any moment. Okay, now, once we come out of that load process, the one instant when our front toe touches the ground, that's what we're going to define as launch position. Right? You see this visual that I made right here a while back. It's kind of been in a lot of places on the internet, but does a really good job of showing what a similar position so many of these guys are in at that one instant when the front toe touches the ground. Again, guys that didn't grow up together, didn't speak the same language, some of them, right? Some grew up on different continents, were in different eras, right? You got Mantle, Mason here, these guys that played in totally different eras. However, natural selection, the process of natural selection was such that the guys that got to the highest level and were super elite for a pretty extended period of time all happened to be in a very similar position at that one instant when the front toe touches the ground. That identifies that position is pretty important if we would like to maximize our potential. So we're big proponents of understanding this position, working hard to have a good feel for this position. Yes, you're not thinking about it consciously in the game, but you should be putting in the work prior to the game reps so that you are hitting a spot similar to this at that one moment when your front toe touches the ground. Okay, this is just the view from the back. So we kind of talk about a lot of different angles just to kind of break it down so that it's easy to analyze and look at exactly where you are relative to some of these big leaguers. So from this back view, we like to look at making sure the hands are right behind that front shoulder. Okay, that helps set us up to be able to swing on plane more often. And it also is kind of the optimal balance between power and average. So that bat should point right around the ground in front of the catcher's feet. And then we'd also like to have good posture, right? Have a little bit of lean forward. See, there's some variation there. But we definitely want at that instant our front toe touches to have some level of spinal tilt forward from this back view or the front view. And then we would like to have that back hip loaded be into our legs. We kind of like to draw a line from the back of the butt straight down to the ground. And you'll see with most of these guys, their butt is behind their heel. Even though Manny Ramirez right here, he doesn't have as much depth in his back leg, but he still has his back hip loaded a little bit. You can see his butt is behind his heel. And then Vlad Guerrero, right, is like you see even further back. So a good little measurement for some of these particular angles. Now, from the side view, okay, primary four, we'll say, bat points to the ground in front of the catcher's feet, front shoulder down and in, spine angle slightly back. We'd like to set that as our axis of rotation once we hit front toe touch. And then we'd like the lower half to be close to balance. So you'll see Arenado right here, back foot timing, boom, hits that launch position. All right. Brandon Crawford, same thing. One instant his front toe touches, bat at the catcher's feet, front shoulder down and in, spine angle slightly back, balanced in that lower half. Vladdy, you'll see right here, boom, lifts that tip up, bat at the catcher's feet, balanced lower half, front shoulder down and in. Ooh, big bat speed. All right. So What's the overall progression? Well, for that first portion, we kind of just went over it. Stance, load process, launch position. Simple enough. You see Buster Posey right here. He's in his stance. That big leg kick that he had is sort of his load process. Instant his front toe touches the ground. That's his launch position. Now, moving on from that initial portion, those first three, to swing plane, which I said we'll break down into more pieces. Today, we're just going to kind of conceptualize swing plane, which I think it's a much more popular term nowadays. People tend to understand it a lot better. But in general, it is the shape that we make with the actual swing itself. So if we're tracing the knob of the bat, the tip of the bat, really our front arm and our shoulders as well, that is the shape that we're creating. We would like to try to dial this in and keep it as much of a flat sheet of glass, a flat two-dimensional sheet of glass as we can versus some big distortion. All right, you see Maurer right here, that idea. Now, the piece that we're going to spend a little time on today as it relates to swing plane is connection. This is really the initial turn, right? After we hit launch position, that initial move towards the ball as we start to turn. Hopefully our sequencing is all correct, right? Our hips are going to go prior to our shoulders, and our hands are kind of along for the ride. You see right here, this visual, how tight their hands still are to their body and the angle from that front forearm to the bat. They've just kept that bat so tight to their back shoulder. This allows them to, number one, store more power, right? We still have that front wrist cocked, and so we'll be able to unfold the barrel at impact ideally, which gives us a little extra whip, a little extra bat speed. But it also helps us turn a little bit tighter and therefore be more efficient into the zone, which can help us have a little bit more time to make a swing decision, right? We don't, if we're super disconnected on the back half, a lot of times we just got to guess. And as we start seeing more velo and better off speed stuff, it can really hamper us. So impact would be the second portion. All right. Firm front side. We'd like to have the head as still as possible as we rotate into that. All right. Good power transfer off the backside. You see that right there. And then extension. Extension is going to depend a little bit on pitch location, where we're driving the ball, but a good general rule of thumb is we would like to get fully extended, right, if we can, on sort of like a middle pitch, our A hack, and we would like to not be extending downhill. All right, we would like, you see all these guys, it's like the tip of their bat is almost pointing right back at the pitcher's head. That can be a very simple cue. Again, oversimplification, I understand that, but for youth guys, if this end point is a goal to get to, that can help them self-organize to a pretty good spot. All right, now connection. Let's go a little more in depth here. Again, I want you to look at the angle from the bat to this front forearm. So really it has to do with how cocked this bottom hand wrist stays as we start to turn. If we watch Judge right here, okay, I love this. This is from Kinetrax. Shout out Kinetrax, really cool technology that these guys have. But I love this, the skeleton rendering right here, and watching how tight the bat stays to the back shoulder. So you see he gathers here. This is his load process. The one instant his front toe touches the ground will be launch position, and then he starts to turn, and you see that bat stays so tight to the back shoulder. So for the first quarter of the turn or so, he's just super, super tight with that turn. Watch that bat, how tight it stays to that back shoulder one more time. Just really, really tight, connected. He stored all that energy and then unleashes it right there. Beautiful sort of depiction of it. Okay, a couple more. Here's Polanco. Watch him as well as he turns right here. See how he maintains that shape. So he's keeping that wrist nice and cocked. It's so important that we hit a good launch position, but we would like to then maintain the shape of that launch position as we start to turn. You see Freddie Freeman right here. See how he keeps that bottom hand wrist cocked and then unfolds the barrel once he gets through sort of the first quarter of the turn. Again, exactly when you unfold it will depend a little bit on pitch location, but really want to try to feel this move of keeping the hands tight, keeping that wrist cocked as we start our turn. It would be the antithesis of casting our bat, right? See that bat, how tight it stays to the back shoulder right here with Soto as he starts his turn. Right, really beautiful as he initiates the turn right there. Just one more example, looking at Cano here. Boom, see how he keeps that wrist cocked, how the bat stays tight to his back shoulder as he starts to turn. And then right there, it starts to open up as he's starting to unfold the barrel. Okay, now swing plane. So connection is sort of a portion of swing plane, but then swing plane itself, again, just conceptualizing it. We would like to try to create a nice flat sheet of glass. And every pitch location is going to have a different swing plane, right? We can't just groove one swing plane and then always swing in that exact slot. We have to get good at figuring out how to slot our barrel correctly. So you see, this is a view of Altuve right here from behind. And just understand, this is a good way, if you take video of your players from behind and you take them out to contact and then draw this line from through the center of the pitch and then through kind of the base of their neck, right? That's kind of the center of our radius as we're rotating right there. If as they turn on the backside right there, they do a good job of slotting the barrel. You see, as he starts to turn, he drops the barrel right into this slot in the knob of the bat, the tip of the bat, his front shoulder, the front arm, excuse me, and the shoulders all stay right on that line. And really what that line is representing is this orange disc, but we're just seeing the edge of it. And by way of just looking at the edge of what that orange disc or that flat sheet of glass swing plane would be, it can help us get a good sense as to if we were too inside out, right? Too much of an uppercut, or too across with our barrel delivery, slotting our barrel and then approaching the ball into the zone. If as I turn, the tip of the bat goes way up above this line, then I'm probably coming down at it at too exaggerated of an angle. If the tip of the bat goes way underneath it, if I dump the barrel way underneath this line, then I'm probably a little too inside out with my approach into it. Okay. And what you'll see is when I'm too across, when I come at it too hard down, very often it's weak pop flies the other way is the result we get. And if I'm too far inside out, very often rollovers, pull side is what I get, which is a little counterintuitive. But this is a good, like, simple way. You just on your iPhone, you can take videos from the back and go ahead and draw that line. And again, it's key to draw it through the center of the pitch at impact, because again, this line and the tilt of this line will change based on what the pitch location is. All right. So just another view of it right here. You see from the front view, perfectly flat, which was on the last one, and then seeing it from the side view right there, trying to keep that plane nice and flat. You see how it's nice and tight on his turn, like we talked about with the connection, and then good extension out front. That's the old short to it, long through it. Now, I think this is a very helpful visual right here. So if I were to ask, our athletes, which is which, three primary swing plane shapes, which one's on plane, which one is across or swinging down too much, and which one is inside out. That shouldn't say on plane inside out. It should just say inside out, typo. But point being, if I were to ask my athletes these three, would they be able to identify the shape? And if they're able to identify the shape, then they can do reps in front of a mirror just like this and start to get a good feel for what it feels like for them internally when they're on plane, when they're inside out, when they're across. And that helps them become more in tune with their own swing and be, hopefully their own coach to an extent, a little bit more, being able to feel, oh, I was inside out or across on that one, right? But just to go over this, right, looking at these, if we actually identify which is which, across or down too much would be this first one. So chopping the wood too much, all right? Inside out or an uppercut, it's a little bit too much in to out right there, okay? And then on plane. Ideally, we would swing exactly on plane with the line of the pitch. Again, this will have to change based on pitch location, but that's our goal, to be able to dial in that swing plane. People talk about barrel depth, right? It really is a thing where if we're able to swing exactly on plane with the line of the pitch, that's how I'm going to maximize my odds of consistent hard contact, because I am in effect creating that barrel depth, but then also keeping my barrel in line with the pitch a little bit more out in front and through extension. So the goal is to give ourselves a bigger margin for error as it relates to our timing by way of keeping our barrel in line with the line of the pitch for a more extended period of time. The way you do that, swinging on plane, okay? It also will give you a batted ball profile on purely struck balls that lends itself to more success, right? So that if I do get it absolutely pure when I swing down like this, it's a two hopper to third base or to shortstop or whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's a single in the 6-hole, right? This one, if I get it absolutely pure, sometimes it's an oppo bomb. That is true. But my timing has to be exactly perfect to get it absolutely pure. Right here, a lot of these are doubles and bombs when I get it absolutely pure as well, but my barrel's in line with the pitch more often, okay? Here's just a quick example. It's a great view right here. Shohei Ohtani, he actually gets capped on this ball a little bit from Kershaw. This was in the All-Star game, but because he's right on plane, as he gets into the zone and through extension, he's able to get enough of it to still get a base hit. That's what we're saying. Give ourselves a bigger margin for error. Will the Thrill, back in the day, great swing right here. It's such a beautiful view of that barrel chasing the ball. Okay, we're a little bit offset on this camera view, more in left center, but you can still see that swing plane is front arm, the knob of the bat, the tip of the bat, shoulders all swinging right on plane or turning right on plane. Okay, and then 5, finish. Really, all we want to focus on with this is the idea of finishing the swing. You see Ethier right here, he's finishing with one hand, and then Brendan Phillips, Posey, and Cano are all finishing with 2 hands. But we can see all of their numbers also. They're not completely stopping the rotational move. So it's just for young guys. Again, there's nuance around this, talking about sequencing and things of that nature. We're not going to get into that right here today. For young guys, it's a beneficial thing for them to try to think about finishing the swing, right? Continuing to rotate. Now, can they finish with one hand? Yeah, we would like for them to hold on with that top hand, at least through extension, but just reinforce the idea of finish it, have intent, right? If you can have young guys try to swing with intent, try to do damage when they're swinging, it does help them self-organize to create a more explosive and powerful move that will allow them to hopefully play at a higher level and be more effective with their swing. So anyways, quick overview, guys. I know that was probably a lot, but I was trying to just get something together that sort of compiled all that, and then you can go back and parse through different parts and listen to it again. So hopefully you can use this as a resource. It would be somewhat helpful. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.